Why don't we start with burnout?
What's burnout? Yeah.
So burnout is this response that perhaps the best way of thinking about it is the process by which chronic stress, that persistent exposure to things that are stressing you out, is getting diminishing returns from your system, and the resources that it's drawing away from other parts of your body are starting to cause problems.
And chronic means it's getting worse and worse.
It's getting
Oh,
worse.
my
It is
goodness.
getting worse. So what's happening is that you're being persistently exposed to something stressful. Stress is great for dealing with a short-term discrete problem. It is not great for dealing with long-term problems. And, humans with our ridiculously complicated forebrains, we're very capable of worrying about things that we can't see anymore, or we're capable of worrying about things for a long period of time. So, where other animals might see something that disturbs them and react to that
And move on.
and then move on, we're not so great at the moving on part.
Keep processing.
And that can be wonderful. That can be absolutely to our
Sure.
advantage. We can
Sure.
come up with solutions to long-term problems. But it also means that this stress process can be persisting, and after a while that starts to cause
You're
problems.
not sort of replenishing. Is that the idea you're saying here?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's an important part of it. Is what ought to happen is the stress process ought to resolve, and we switch to a different mode of operating, a sort of a maintenance mode, and then we start replenishing. We start refueling, we start resting and recuperating.
Fresh.
And that's not happening. It starts happening less and less well, and then it's not really happening much at all. And yeah, we start building up these additional problems.
So we're not built for that. We that's it. It gets to a point where we start to, as you said, we start to lead kind of resources that we want to use in other things. Becomes all our resources occupied with that kind of how to deal with that stress or something, right?
Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. We are very depleted of the resources that we need to recover ourselves. So we tend to experience this set of symptoms. Exhaustion is often, but not always the first one. There is a process that is sometimes called detachment.
Yeah.
And what happens here is as we try to deal with the stressful situation in front of us, one of the ways, often happening unconsciously, we start to say, well, I don't care about that. So people might find that they don't care as much about work. They don't care as much about a particular aspect of work. They might find that they don't care as much about hobbies and interests.
Yeah.
What their brain is trying to do is throw up these barriers so that they can start to rest, so that they don't feel responsible for these things all of the time.
Okay.
And it's a protective mechanism that, unless you really withdraw, unless you really take a substantial break, is actually going to make things worse in the long run.